Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Moran Show. And man, am I excited to be recording today. We had a lot of stuff happen in NFL Week 10. We're having some great things happen in the NBA. The Timberwolves are winning. The Mavericks are winning. The Rockets are surprising me. I'm Prince Shangoon, MIP. He's a candidate. Oh man, we got a lot of great stuff to talk about. I was supposed to record an episode, the second episode last week. I didn't get to it. And the reason for that is because I started to get sick. This entire weekend, I just laid down in bed watching NBA and NFL games and also playing that brand new Call of Duty. And I didn't forget about you guys about the giveaway. Trust me, I didn't. Right now, I got the list of names that entered and commented done on the last episode is right in front of me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the wheel right now, and whoever it lands on is winning that new Call of Duty. Let's see who's winning. Let's see who's winning. Santos Lopez Loyola. I'm not even kidding. This is crazy. Santos won the Call of Duty giveaway. Honorary Pick a Side fan. What are the odds? What are the odds, people? Santos won it, and I already know I'm going to get some comments saying this is rigged. This is crazy. You guys saw me tap it. So you know what? We going to have one more winner. I said last week I might give away a couple copies. So now this is the second copy on the way. Who's going to win the second Call of Duty Modern Warfare? It's spinning. It's spinning. It has landed. What's the name? The name is Alex Hernandez 0406. To claim your copy, all you got to do is comment on the video, on the episode, and I will reach out to you for your information so we can communicate, and we'll get that done. Now let's get on to the biggest thing that happened in NFL Week 10. Now, there are a lot of times that I say some takes, right? And some people on the show may think, oh, that's crazy. No way you made that just now. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that you would think that, right? And one of those takes was that last week I said during the MVP awards section of the podcast, I said my MVP is Lamar Jackson, but my dark horse is CJ Stroud. He is that sensational. Drew said, that's crazy. He won't even get a vote. No way. It will never happen. I don't know where Dell stood on that. I just know that Drew was whining about it. Week 10 happens. The Texans beat the Bengals. They beat them 30-27. CJ Stroud outplays Joe Burrow, the quarterback near and dear to my heart. CJ Stroud outplays him. Throws for over 300. Has 2 touchdowns. He had a boneheaded interception in the fourth quarter. He had the Bengals some life. But God damn it, you saw the game-winning drive from CJ Stroud, putting Matt Amendola in position to win the game. And Amendola did it. Former Jet. CJ Stroud is special. Watching this guy play football is special. We're talking about a Lou Anarumo Bengals defense that the Bengals might not have the most talent on paper. But from a schematic standpoint, he makes it tough on every single offense. The Texans were no exception. Lou Anarumo threw a bunch of looks at CJ. Blitzing, dropping 8, manufacturing pressures. CJ passed the test with flying colors. To the point that after this game, you got the whole world saying, CJ for MVP. CJ for MVP. I saw Ian Rappaport tweet it. I saw Adam Schefter tweet it. I saw Bleacher Report tweet it. But Joel Moran said it first. I said it first. Before anybody was considering him for MVP. That's my dark horse. And he's proving me right. I remember weeks ago, I had DJ Bieneme, ESPN reporter, beat writer for the Texans, on a Joel Moran show. And we talked about the Texans. We talked about CJ Stroud. And in that video, I said, I think this team's making the playoffs. The Texans are a good football team. They had so many injuries against the Bengals, and they still came out on top. I'm looking at CJ's numbers for the year. He's completed almost 62% of his passes, 2,626 yards, 15 touchdowns, to 2 interceptions and a passer rating of 101. He's second in passing yards. He's tied 9th in passing touchdowns. He's at the bottom of interceptions. He's 10th in QBR, and he's 6th in passer rating. But here's why CJ is a real MVP candidate. It's not just the numbers. It's the expectations. The 2022 Houston Texans went 3-13-1. They had the 30th ranked offense. The 2023 Texans, you insert new coaching, you insert a new quarterback, you insert some new pieces. They're 5-4. They have the 10th ranked offense. CJ Stroud took an offense that was the 30th ranked offense last year and made it the 10th ranked offense this year. They got some new pieces, sure, but any pieces that we thought would be groundbreaking, it's not like the Texans traded for Tyreek Hill or drafted Jalen Waddle. Nico Collins broke out. What was he before CJ Stroud? Nico Collins is a good receiver. He's been playing phenomenal football. And I'm not crediting CJ entirely for how he's playing, but that plays a huge role. Players around CJ are playing better. He's playing at a top 10 quarterback level right now. There aren't 7 quarterbacks in the NFL I would take moving forward over CJ Stroud to start a franchise. I wouldn't. And it's not like the Texans have elite blocking, an elite running game that CJ relies on. Versus the Bengals, Singletary was phenomenal. That was the best rushing performance the Texans have had all season long. But this rushing attack is inconsistent. They're ranked 25th in the NFL. CJ is performing at a near MVP level. CJ is performing at an MVP level with an inconsistent rushing attack, an average offensive line, great coaching, good weapons. These weapons are good. They're not great. They're not elite. They're good. And that's fine. For CJ to perform like this, forget about the rookie label. Because I think at this point, we have to mention he's a rookie just to acknowledge how phenomenal he's been. But we can't mention him as a rookie to downplay what he's doing. He's playing like a 10-year veteran. He's been that phenomenal. He's been that elite. Nico Collins having the best year of his career. Noah Brown is on pace to have the best season of his career. He had a big-time game against the Bengals. CJ Stroud has elevated the team. He's elevated the Texans. Do people around him get credit? Yes, absolutely. But when you evaluate the Texans as a whole, and you're pointing at one person that deserves the most credit, it's CJ Stroud. It's not only the statistics, it's the expectations the Texans had. They currently are 7th in the AFC. If the season ended today, the Texans would be in the playoffs. And what's the biggest reason for that? CJ Stroud. This lazy argument that he doesn't deserve to be a serious candidate because the Texans aren't a top 3 team in the NFL is ridiculous. You're using a team record to justify an individual season performance. There is no way you watch CJ Stroud and your conclusion is that's not an MVP candidate because he's playing at an MVP level. How many quarterbacks can you actually name that are having a better season than CJ Stroud? There are not much, and there's a lot of ones that are debatable. Josh Allen, yeah, take into account turnovers, that's a little bit debatable. Justin Herbert, he's playing phenomenal. Chargers aren't doing him any favors, but CJ got 2 interceptions on the season. That's debatable. What about Tua? That's debatable. When you take into account what CJ has versus what Tua has the best wide receiver in the NFL. That's debatable. It is. CJ has a debate to be in this conversation. And I found this interesting stat. 2, actually. CJ Stroud has the most completions of 25-plus yards in the NFL this year of any quarterback. There are only 5 quarterbacks in NFL history to start their first 9 games of the season with 15-plus passing touchdowns, 2,600 yards, and 2 interceptions or less. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and CJ Stroud. That's the company he's putting himself in right now. That's why he's an MVP candidate. We had some other great headlines happen in Week 10 of the NFL season. The Jaguars, they got obliterated by the 49ers. The Browns came back in the fourth quarter against the Baltimore Ravens. Unfortunately for you guys, and I'm sorry I have to say this, but I will be saving the opinions I have on those games for the Pick a Side podcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be going live. I still want to go back and watch the all 22 of those games, really kind of dive into what happened in those matchups, and I want to give you guys a really well-informed opinion on what happened in those games because it's interesting what happened. I know the 49ers dominated the Jaguars. I can tell you the summary of what happened. Oh, I know. But I feel like right now a lot of people are kind of blaming Trevor Lawrence for these Jaguars performances on offense. But from what I'm seeing, man, he doesn't have much help. He really doesn't. That offensive line is a mess. The 49ers did their thing. Brock Purdy played a phenomenal game. And as for the Browns and Ravens game, I just feel like the Ravens gave it to them. That turnover late in the fourth quarter really cost them the ball game. Deshaun Watson looked somewhat like his Houston self. But like I said, I'll talk about that more tomorrow on the Pick a Side podcast. I want to have a venting session about my New York football Jets because the Jets lost to the Raiders 12-16 Sunday Night Football for the whole world to see. They have now dropped to 4-5 on the season. The last 2 times the Jets have been 4-5 on the season, they went 5-11 one year, and they made the AFC Championship the other year. There's no balance. There's no medium for where this Jets team is going to go right now. But I look at the Jets, right? We lost to the Raiders 12-16. We lost to the Patriots 10-15. We won to the Giants 13-10. Lucky win. Graham Gano makes a field goal. We lose. We beat the Bills week 1, 22-16. Josh Allen had 3 turnovers. We barely won. Xavier Gibson had a punt return touchdown and won us the game. We're 30th in offense. And man, there are problems on this offense. Zach Wilson is not good. We can't run the football. Our offensive line is not good in protection. Our receivers drop footballs. And whenever it feels like we get an explosive play on offense, a penalty is called. But at some point, you got to look for answers. At some point, you have to look at the common denominator in most of these games and his performance. Zach Wilson is not as bad as he was last year, but he's still one of the worst, if not the worst, starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm seeing Tyson Bagent have better performances than him. I'm seeing Aidan O'Connell play better than him. I've seen Desmond Ridder have better games than Zach Wilson has had this year. Zach Wilson has been in the league for 3 years. I haven't seen a quarterback get this long of a leash. Zach Wilson has thrown a touchdown on just 20 of his 931 career passes. His 2.1% touchdown rate is the lowest in NFL history among players with at least 900 passes. Mac Jones just got benched in another country. I think Mac Jones has been benched multiple times this year. He's thrown twice as many touchdowns as Zach Wilson has this season. Twice as many. Zach Wilson in his last 4 games, I think it was 4 or 5 games, 1 touchdown and 5 turnovers. After Rodgers went down, the Jets should have went looking for quarterback options. Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, Josh Dobbs. Kirk Cousins went out when he got hurt. The first thing the Vikings did was save their season and trade for a quarterback, a viable one, Josh Dobbs. They've won 2 games in a row with him. I'm looking at this last game versus the Raiders, 12-16. Do I think we win one of those with a better quarterback? Yeah. I understand not all of the problems have been on Zach Wilson, but at some point, you have to start looking for solutions. You're not benching Garrett Wilson. You paid Lazard a lot of money. You're not benching him. You're not benching Conklin. You're not benching CJ. You can't bench anyone in the offensive line. Can't bench Breece Hall. It's either benching Zach or taking play calling duties away from Nathaniel Hackett. It's one of those two. But I just can't believe it. I just can't believe that the Jets are 4-5 right now, and we have legitimately had no offense. Our defense is carrying us to victories. Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, for the good things that they've done with this organization, the worst thing they've done is refuse to admit that they're wrong about Zach Wilson. I did it reluctantly, but I did it. I came to my senses. I've been off the Zach train. That's why it bothers me when people tweet me about Zach Wilson. Don't you know I'm off that? I might still have a screensaver saved of him, in the back pocket just in case he does something. I'll show you guys right now. Just in case he does something, I got that Zach Wilson saved in the chamber. Actually, no, I don't know. I didn't delete it. Right there, Zach Wilson holding a Super Bowl trophy. I got it saved just in case, but for right now, it's me and my lovely girlfriend. I got it saved just in case, but it's on the back burner. Douglas and Saleh have refused to admit they're wrong about Zach Wilson. We didn't get a viable backup quarterback behind Rodgers. It's unfortunate he got hurt, but after how last season ended, your jobs are riding on Zach Wilson. I don't know if it's Saleh. I don't know if it's Douglas. Maybe it's the Johnsons from up top telling them to keep playing him. I don't know. But something's got to give. And we got to start winning football games. Because we can still make the playoffs. But losing to the Raiders last night put us way behind the 8 ball. That's all for the NFL. I'm saving most of my NFL stuff for tomorrow for the podcast because it's an NFL podcast. I want to talk about the NBA. And boy, oh boy. I looked at the Western Conference standings this morning with a smile on my face. Number 1, the Nuggets. Number 2, the Mavericks. Number 3, the Timberwolves. Mavs and Timberwolves, 2 teams I was very high on coming into the year. Number 4, the Rockets. Was not expecting that. But I would be remiss if I didn't shout out John Tortorelli for the foresight he had on his Rockets team. They're playing some phenomenal basketball. It's early in the season. It is. And last NBA podcast, it kind of bothered me that we would talk about these teams and we didn't really talk about them. All we did is maybe say a sentence or two and say it's early in the season. We can't overreact. But it's not an overreaction if you're looking at the facts. It's not an overreaction if you're just reporting and analyzing what's currently happening. I'll go down in order. I'll start with the Mavericks because they're second in the Western Conference. They're 8-2. This is the best start to a Mavericks team that Luka Doncic has been on in his career. 8-2 start. Hasn't been the toughest schedule. I'll be the first one to admit that. But you got to win games. And had they been losing these games, the whole world would be overreacting. But they're winning these games, so nobody's quite giving them credit. But the last 4 games, they blew out the Magic, they blew out the Clippers, and they blew out the Pelicans. the Magic right now is looking like the most impressive blowout win because they're a gritty team that keep games close. The Clippers, since getting Harden, have been a mess, and the Pelicans, they're not playing through Zion right now, and they're kind of having their own issues. But I'm looking at these Mavericks stats. They're scoring 1.38 points per possession on 10.5 second shot pace. Do you understand how unbelievable that is? They're one of the most efficient offenses in the NBA. They're basically a guaranteed bucket every time they're on offense. And they get those baskets in 10.5 seconds. It's not late shots. It's not bad ball movement. They're getting their shots quick and efficient. Second in offensive rating. 6th in net rating. 1st in true shooting percentage. 9th in pace. This team in the past has been a slow team because of Luka. Luka slows down the pace. He controls the game, and he's efficient that way. In the minutes without Luka, when Kyrie is in the game, this team, they push the pace. They defend without fouling. They run in transition. They get easy buckets. And it looks like two different basketball teams. But both versions of the team are coming at you at full speed and really giving it to you offensively. The rebounding, the defense, it's not top of the league. It's bottom 20 right now. But I think the eye test is kind of proven to be better than what the numbers are showing right now. Because I think the Mavericks, for the most part, have been defending somewhat well. The Mavericks had an underrated offseason, and I was saying it all year long, all offseason long, I'll say it on the podcast. Getting Grant Williams, a defender, a 3-and-D wing, has been huge for them. Derek Lively, who they were able to draft because they tanked last season at the end of the year, he's looking like their future center. And right now, what he's giving them is elite level defense. When he's in the game, they hold opponents and shut them down, and he's rebounding the basketball. Tim Hardaway Jr. averages 17 points per game. Kyrie's averaging 23 points per game. He's averaging almost 7 assists per game. Kyrie Irving's having the best playmaking season of his entire career. And I think the leadership that Kyrie has shown to this team is a big reason why they're 8-2. He's brought a different mentality to the Mavericks. I've been very critical about Kyrie in previous stops with the Nets. I wasn't a big fan of the Mavs move because I didn't know how it was going to work out. Is he going to give up on his team like he did with previous teams? But it looks like Kyrie is all the way bought in. I kind of think this is similar to that first year in Boston. When Kyrie was in Boston his first year, they were the first seed in the Eastern Conference. They were legit. He was leading that team. And right now, he's showcasing that type of leadership for the Mavericks. And, of course, Luka. I mean, he's averaging 33, 8, and 8. He's a triple-double, walking triple-double every single night. Luka is just that phenomenal. He's that good. And I stood on this opinion that I had all offseason long is that Luka missed the playoffs last year. That's not happening again. All-time talents, all-time players like him don't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. That's just unheard of, especially in the NBA. In the NFL, great quarterbacks miss the playoffs all the time because it's a team game. But in the NBA, you can, nitpick Luka's defense all you want, but offense is more important than defense. It just is. It's more valuable. That's why the best defenders in the league aren't always the best players in the NBA. Some of the best defenders in the NBA aren't top 5 players. Bam Adebayo is a top 3 defender in the world. He's not a top 5 player in the world. Why? Because offense matters more than defense. And what Luka can do as a scorer, as a playmaker, it's just there's not many guys like him. The only people that are close to him are Jokic, LeBron, and then Steph Curry, Giannis. Like, we're talking about the best players in the NBA. He's just not going to miss the playoffs twice in a row. This is not going to happen. It's just not. And the Mavericks' hot start this year, it's kind of given me more belief in them because I don't know where they're going to be when the season ends or anything like that. But I know for certain they're going to be a playoff team. Right now, what they're showing me, how they're playing basketball, this is high-level elite basketball. They're second in the West for a reason. It hasn't been the toughest schedule, but I think that they can match up with any team in the West. There are some teams that they don't match up the best with, like the Nuggets. The Nuggets are a horrible matchup for them, but for the most part, they're not going to face an elite level center like that every single night, and they're not going to face a team for the most part that has players that can guard Luka on a night-to-night basis. The Mavericks are having a great start to the season, and it all starts with the moves they made in the offseason. The Timberwolves are a team that last offseason made their marquee move in trading for Rudy Gobert, and last year wasn't the best. They couldn't click offensively. The Cat and Rudy Gobert pairing, their offensive rating was a 107.5, which was the worst in the NBA. Cat and Gobert, the fit, it was horrible. They couldn't play together defensively. It didn't look good when they were on the floor together. Gobert last year came into training camp hobbled. He really didn't participate much. They weren't able to construct a defensive system around him. But I think two things are the biggest reasons why the Timberwolves are so much better this year. And I think, it's early in the season, but you watch the games and you can tell that some things are just fact. It's not overreactions. It's fact with how you see them play. And the two things that I think have made the biggest difference is, one, having Rudy Gobert play in drop coverage again. He's one of the best drop coverage defenders in NBA history. Not just right now. I'm talking about the history of the NBA. Rudy is one of the best drop defenders ever. Anthony Edwards is taking a leap into superstardom. He just won Western Conference Player of the Week, averaging 33, 6, and 7. The Timberwolves are 7-2. They've won 6 straight games, and 3 of those wins have come against the Nuggets, Celtics, and Warriors. 3 of the best teams in the league, and Edwards in each of those games has really showed out. Versus the Celtics, he outplayed Tatum. He outplayed Jaylen Brown. He was the best player on the court, especially in overtime. Versus the Warriors, Stephen Curry had 38, but Anthony Edwards, what he did two-way, you could argue he was the best player on the court that game as well. The Warriors didn't shoot well that game. The teammates around Steph, that's another issue for another day, but they have to be better. Those are the two biggest things, because Rudy Gobert, what he's doing best is now unlocking this Timberwolves defense. They're first in defense in the NBA, first in defensive rating, first in opponents' field goal percentage, first in opponents' points per game, first in opponents' three-point percentage. And I think a lot of that has to do with Gobert, of course. He finally has perimeter defenders around him that can guard, unlike in Utah. And we have to start talking about Cat. Cat is quietly buying in to the effort on defense versus the Warriors. They put him in a lot of pick-and-roll actions. And what was he doing? He was guarding a ball handler. He was going back to his man when they would slip the screen. He was contesting shots. He was closing out. The effort he's given is a big reason why the Wolves have a top defense in basketball. And the difference between this season and last season, this season, Cat and Gobert, when they share the floor together, have an offensive rating of 120 versus last year, it was 107.5. So not only are the Wolves' offense drastically better, the Wolves' offense is drastically better this year with Gobert and Cat sharing the court. Their defense is also much better when they share the floor as well. And Cat has not had the greatest shooting start to the season, but his last 3 games, he's averaged 24 points and 10 rebounds. There's a lot of chatter around Cat and how he doesn't fit with the team, how he's a negative. I don't buy into it. The best version of the Timberwolves is going to be with Cat playing at a high level. That's how they can reach their ultimate ceiling, because Cat is still an all-star level player, and regardless of the negative reputation he has around his name, he's still a phenomenal basketball player that is a unique one at that. He's a 7-footer that can shoot 40% from 3 and can back you down and can post you up. And I didn't even mention the depth on the Wolves right now. Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson, that 6th and 7th man off your bench. Every team in the NBA would kill for that type of dynamic duo off their bench. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Mike Conley's buy-in for this team. Taking a hit in his numbers, taking a hit in his shot attempts and his assists per game, because he understands that in order for us to be the best version of us, I have to take the back seat and make sure on offense, this was his quotes, I'm just paraphrasing this, the spacing is right. Cat is in the right position. Gobert is in the right position. I have to make sure that off these pick and rolls, I'm not taking shots. I'm getting the ball to Rudy. I'm getting the ball to Cat. I'm getting the ball to Anthony Edwards. Last year, the Wolves didn't have a point guard that can do that in D'Angelo Russell. This year with Mike Conley, he has gladly taken that back seat, and he's taken a playmaking role, and it's really unlocked this Timberwolves team. And I think him having a full offseason with this team is a big reason for that. I've said it a number of times, but this Timberwolves team reminds me of the Jazz team the year after they got Conley. The first year with Conley wasn't the best. The second year with Conley, they were the first seed in the Western Conference. This Wolves team feels a lot like that. Last thing I want to talk about, because I have to mention them, is the Houston Rockets. Shout out to John Tortorelli for the foresight take on this team. I'll be the first one to admit that I didn't believe in this team much. And who knows if they'll finish in the play-in, in the playoffs. I really don't care about that because I want to acknowledge what they're doing now on the basketball court, because I have a friend that's a Rockets fan. We were texting yesterday. I said, congrats on the Rockets. They're doing well. He said, yeah, man, it's really a breath of fresh air how well they're currently playing. And you want to know why? Because last year, the Rockets didn't get 5 wins until January. The Rockets are 6-3, and it's November. All these Rockets fans overreacting. I understand why. Last year, it took 4 months of basketball to get to 5 wins. And now they're past that, and it's November. We're not even a month into the NBA season. Barely a month into the NBA season. The NBA put the Rockets 8th in power rankings. They're 4th in point differential according to Cleaning the Glass. 7th in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating. There are 1 in 4 teams to have a top 10 offensive and defensive rating. The coaching miracle that's happening with the city of Houston. Ime Udoka with the Rockets. D'Amico Ryans with the Texans. This is some special stuff. Jokic last year said the Rockets need to play more. Jokic last year said that the Rockets need to play around Şengün more. They need to give him the ball more. And the biggest reason you can say the Rockets are winning is because Şengün is playing at an all-star level. The Rockets just beat the Nuggets, the defending champions, without Jamal Murray, albeit, but Jokic had a 30-point triple-double, 20 rebounds. Şengün on the season is averaging 19.4 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 6 assists per game. He's second in the NBA in mid-range shots percentage. He's shooting 66.7% on mid-range shots. Not only is he a polished post player, he finishes great around the basket, but adding that mid-range shot to his arsenal is unlocking his game. On defense, he's not this turnstile. He's not this cone. He held Jokic to 6 for 17 shooting and 2 turnovers. Şengün is the best player on the Rockets. He's an all-star. But we can't forget about the supporting cast. Jalen Green, 19 efficiently. Fred VanVleet, 17 and 8. Brooks, 14 points per game. He's not chucking up shots. He's playing a role. What I love most about the Rockets is Ime Udoka's approach to young talent, but also veteran players in a lineup. The players that play the most right now, young players, are Şengün, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Tyrese, and that's the 4. The veteran players, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jae'Sean Tate, Aaron Holiday, and Jeff Green. 4 young players and 5 vets that are in the rotation the most. Usually with these teams, like last year, the Rockets, they would have 10 19-year-olds out there just playing. Everybody wants to score 20 points per game. But this year, there's structure. And I don't think that's hindering the growth of young players. A guy like Cam Whitmore is in the G League, earning his spot, getting better. Amen Thompson would be in the rotation, but he got hurt. You know, these guys got to earn their spot. The closing lineup for the Rockets against Denver was Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jeff Green, and Alperen Şengün. 3 veterans in a lineup closing out the game. And Jeff Green was huge for them versus the Pelicans as well. That's what I love most about this Rockets team. And that's why I can sell myself on them more. Because Ime Udoka has proven to me he's a great coach. This team, are they going to just stop playing defense? Dylan Brooks not going to stop playing defense. Fred VanVleet not going to stop playing defense. Jabari Smith has been defending well. They're not going, so much of making a young team better is making them buy in on defense. If you can make them buy in on defense, you can get them to play hard, and they play offense well, and on some nights they have hot nights shooting, you're going to win ball games. Right now, the Rockets, to me, feel like a team that they're going to smash the over that Vegas set for them in the offseason. I think this is a team that can win 35-plus games. They're playing some good basketball right now. When I woke up this morning, I checked the West standings and I had a smile on my face. Because a lot of the teams that I thought would be good are playing well right now. The Grizzlies are at the bottom of the West right now. And I checked the comment on the recent Biggest Eye video on the full episode we had. And one of the comments were, man, Joel got lucky with the Grizzlies take. Because if Steven Adams was playing, he'd be wrong. The Grizzlies are 2-8. Steven Adams does not make them 8-2. Steven Adams does not make them 6-4. I'm sorry, he doesn't. Even if Steven Adams is healthy, this team was missing the playoffs. Do you see the teams in the West right now that are playing well? Do you see the teams right now that are struggling, but we're going to assume they're going to get it together at some point, like the Suns, Lakers, and the Clippers? Grizzlies wasn't making playoffs regardless. You just don't want to give me my props, and that's cool. No matter how many times I'm right, you're going to think I'm wrong. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Joel Moran Show. I had to talk about CJ Stroud. I had to talk about what's going on in the basketball world. This can do it for this episode. Shout out to Santos and shout out to Alex for winning the giveaway. Well deserved. I'll be doing other ones in the future, so you guys will always have a chance to win. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time.